Hello friends and welcome back to the Art Room with Mr. Eck. Today we're going to be working on a new project that mixes the heritage of Texas with the modern artwork of Dutch painter Piet Mondrian. Who's Piet Mondrian, you ask? Well, let me show you. Piet Mondrian was a Dutch painter who lived and worked and created art over in Europe and later in New York City about 100 years ago. And he is famous for his flat colors, his lines, his shapes. His art that he is famous for is largely line shapes and color. And this is an example of his. It's called Composition C. And we will be using his art as an inspiration for what we will be creating today. So for this project, we're going to be using 4 of the elements of art. We will be using line, shape, color, and value. These 3 I'm pretty sure you already know about, but value has to do with how dark or light a color is. And so we're going to be doing a painting project. And so when you're painting, let's say we're using red. Well, red is a hue, it is a color. But if you add white to it, you change the value, you're making it lighter. And a lighter hue is called a tint. So when you add white to red to make pink, that is a tint of red. You're changing the value. If you add black to red, you're making a shade of red. So if you add black to red, you get something that looks like maroon, and maroon is a shade of red. So you change the value. So first off, we're going to use line to draw out our scene. We're going to be recreating the Texas flag, but it's going to be in Mondrian style. And we're going to use line to break it up, and then we're going to paint it using color. But I want you to have fun changing the value of each square. Make some lighter, make some darker. I'll show you what I'm talking about right now. So first off, the Texas flag has a vertical stripe on the left, and it has 2 horizontal stripes on the right, and there's a star right here. So it's a pretty simple flag, so it should be pretty easy to recreate. So first we have to draw the Texas flag, and then we'll make it look like Mondrian art. So in class, I will have a star stencil for our students to use. I don't have one that's small enough for my piece of paper here, though. So I'm just going to freehand a star real quick. And then you need a vertical line here. And then find about the middle of your paper vertically. Let's see. My paper is 4 inches tall, so I'm going to make a mark at 2 because that is the halfway point. Make a couple marks like that, and that tells me where to make my line in the middle. So that right there is the Texas flag. You've got a vertical stripe and 2 horizontal stripes. Now we're going to add other lines and make this a Mondrian looking picture. So all the lines that I'm adding have to be straight up and down, otherwise known as vertical, or they need to be straight horizontal, sideways. So I'm just going to break up this page using vertical and horizontal lines, and then it'll be time to start coloring. So now we have drawn our Mondrian Texas flag, and it's time to color it. So let's look real quick at the colors of the Texas flag, and I'll show you how we're going to change it up a bit, but still keep it true to the correct colors. So let's do that now. So like I mentioned earlier, the Texas flag has 3 colors, red, blue, and white. And the area with the star is blue with a white star, and then the white should be on top and the red should be on bottom over on the side. So we're going to do something similar with that. Just keep in mind where all the colors go, because I've had a lot of students get these two backwards. The white goes on top, the red goes underneath. So this whole area right here behind the star needs to be blue, the star needs to be white, this area needs to be white, and this area needs to be red. But we're not going to just color it straight flat colors. We're going to be using value to change the tints and shades of our colors. Let me show you an example right now. I'm going to start with the blue. So I've got my tempera cakes here. I've got 6 colors. I'm only going to be using blue, red, black, and white. Alright, so with tempera cakes you have to get them wet. Remember, we are not smashing our bristles, so that's very important. Get this where you can see my paint. Alright, so first I've got to get my brush wet. I'm going to gently rub it around on top of the blue to get the tempera cakes started. Once you've got a little puddle there, you know you're good to go. The water kind of makes a little pool of liquid paint for you to work with. Alright, so this is a hue. The word hue just means color. And I'm going to paint a hue right here of blue. Notice how I'm only using the tip of my paintbrush. I'm not smashing the paintbrush. You should ever only need to use the tip. Alright, so that's a nice looking blue. Now I'm going to make a lighter tint of blue beside it. Actually, I'm going to skip a space because when the paint is really wet, it's easy for the colors to mix. So when you're painting, I'm going to suggest that you skip around a bit and leave some space in between and then come back later. So I'll skip here, I'll go down here, here, here. Then later I'll come back and paint this one when these colors are dry. Alright, so there I've got a nice hue of blue, but I want it to be a tint of blue. A tint is a lighter version of the same color. So I'm going to get my white. I'm going to get my white paint wet. After you get them wet once, they stay wet for the rest of class. So you shouldn't have to add a whole lot more water once you get it started. Alright, so now I've got my paintbrush loaded with white paint, and I'm going to gently add the white paint to this section and just try to still keep inside the lines as much as possible. You see how it's turning into a lighter blue? Add a little bit more. The more white you add, the lighter it is. And so what I'm going to do is this whole area is still going to be blue, but I'm going to paint some squares just blue. I'm going to paint some squares as a tint or a lighter shade of blue, and I'm going to paint some squares with blue plus black, which is a shade. So I'm going to make some dark blues, some light blues, so the whole thing will still be blue, but it's going to be more interesting than just painting it straight blue. So I'm going to, well, let me show you this one while you're already watching with me here, and then I'm going to do the rest of this time lapse to save time. So let's do right here, I'm going to do a shade of blue or a dark blue. So I got the blue, I washed the blue out of my paintbrush. Now I'm getting black on my paintbrush and paint the black right on top. And the way you get them to mix, in case I haven't made that obvious yet, is you just kind of rub one color on top of the other and they'll kind of mix themselves. Wow, I used a lot of black, and so that just looks like straight up black. So if I want that to be lighter, I just add a little bit more blue. I forgot that black is a very powerful color. Red is kind of like that too. And so a little bit goes a long way. So on my other ones where I use black, I will just use a little bit of black. So anyway, I've got a hue of blue, a tint of blue, and a shade of blue. And then I'm going to do the rest of those real quick with time lapse, and then it'll be your turn.
Alright, so each of the 3 sections of my painting now have different values of their color. I've got different values of blue, tints and shades and hues, different values of red. We've got tints, shades, and hues. And up here, I didn't want just plain white. I thought that would look boring compared to the rest of it. So there are some areas where I added just a little bit of black to get different shades of gray. But try not to get any really dark spots because that will look weird. So you want really light areas and some kind of medium gray is about the deepest you should go. So the last thing to do is I'm going to take the very tip of my paintbrush and I'm going to paint nice skinny lines between all of my blocks. So like wherever my pencil lines were, I'm going to paint skinny little black lines. I'm going to use the very tip of my paintbrush, and that will be the end of the painting.
And here is my finished Mondrian Texas flag. I think it turned out super cool. I'm really proud of it. I really like how the different shades and tints all look all together. I think it really stays true to the classic Texas flag, but puts a modern art spin on it. So I hope you enjoy playing around with the colors and making tints and shades. And I will see you guys next time in the art room.